Welcome to another episode of Don't Shit on the Bus. This week we have the wonderful good friend of mine, Sara Biv, who I met while we were both on tour with Major Lazer. She is one of the Lazer gals. I think I'm saying that correctly. Basically, Diplo or Major Lazer has 4 core dancers and they travel with him and they dance. And her role is a little bit more involved with his brand than other people. She's not only a dancer on the road, but she's also a choreographer. So she figures out exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, she doesn't just do it herself, if that makes sense. So because of that, I thought she was a good person to have on this podcast because it's like a whole different job than anything we've talked about. She's kind of an artist. I mean, she is an artist, but she's not, Diplo on stage, but she is performing every night, but she's also crew in a way. She works in both areas. And with that being said, her work ethic is amazing. I knew a good amount about her because I've worked with her, traveled with her around the world, done some tours here and there, but I don't really sit down and have deep conversations about how people got in to their job or what inspired them to get to this place or what they do on a daily basis. On the road, it's just so busy that I don't really have time for that. And, maybe I need to reflect and start to have those conversations with people on a deeper level, but I'm happy that she was available and excited to come on a podcast and talk with me about it because I learned so much more about her. And it's cool because you guys get to come on this journey with me, learn about her, learn about other ways you can get into the industry. I'm sure that the amount of people who are trying to become dancers is a very small amount of people who are trying to tour. But if you work with dancers, you'll at least understand where they come from, understand what their life is like, what they're going through on a daily basis when they're on the road, and what they have to do while they're on the road. Because I think the theme for this podcast, or one of the many themes, is the more you understand what other people are doing, the better you can do what you're doing on the road. Sara has worked for more people than just Major Lazer / Diplo. She also works for Nicki Minaj, Miley Cyrus, and more recently, she's been choreographing and working with Camila Cabello. And I know I'm slaughtering her name. I know that I don't have a very good accent, but actually between the time we recorded this podcast and the time we're doing the intro, she had a new video come out with her and it's amazing. A lot of really fun dancing. So check it out. We'll put all the links in the caption as usual. So if you want to check out her socials, see what she's been up to, go scope it because it's pretty impressive. My favorite parts about this podcast are how many different life advice tips she gave. I don't know. I don't go in with very many expectations on these interviews because I try to keep them a little bit open-ended and guided. But I learned a lot just about being a person and being an individual and how to money manage and time manage and the outlook she has on auditioning and working hard. And I was really inspired by that. So there's definitely some things I keep repeating in my head after this podcast episode. And I hope it does the same for you. As always, this podcast is brought to you because of our patrons. Thank you guys so much for your weekly contributions. It supports us, allows me to have wonderful people such as Connor help with the podcast, and keeps this constant flow of interviews. And we really couldn't do without you. I know that, it's not like I'm buying a house off this money, but it does make the podcast possible. And that's amazing because that's our dream, right? We just want to be able to do the podcast, learn along with you guys. So if you want to contribute on a weekly basis, we're very open about the perks you get from this. It's mostly we'll send you something in the mail that says thank you. We do a new round every few months. So we've got some bag tags, some other little merch fun items. And other than that, there's a Discord where you can just talk to other people, meet up with them when you're on tour, they're on tour, hang out with them. It's just a good community, casual, check in there once a week, do a little progress report, and it's just a nice way to stay on track. So if you're feeling like it, come join us. If not, we get it. We're just happy that you're listening to the podcast. Maybe you're on Spotify, YouTube, whatever it is. Thank you. With that being said, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Don't Shit on the Bus podcast. I hope that you enjoy this week's episode. Hello. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Great. Doing great. How are you?
I am good. I am excited to speak and learn from you today, or I hope. Have you started touring again? What's your vibe? Where are you at?
Not yet. We haven't started touring back yet, but things are gearing up. I think pretty much everything, especially in this industry, is gearing up for 2022, I believe. We're definitely getting back into the swing of things. TV performances are back in studios, regular performances. Festivals are now picking back up, but then touring 2022 for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're kind of slowly easing back into it. It's great that stuff is opening up. You can do your one-offs and then eventually next year get back into touring. I mean, everybody's got to schedule tours and everybody's kind of been waiting because last time they did it, they had to cancel them all.
I was literally just going to say, like, it's going to be wild. Like, these arenas are going to cash out. Like, these theaters, everybody's going to cash out because everybody's going to be touring. It's going to be like literally a tour every other night.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's going to be like everybody who's an artist is like, I need to make recoup all this money that I was supposed to be making for the year and a half because they all probably have 3 house payments.
Yeah. And, it's kind of wild because I feel like everybody there were some people that like even through quarantine just thrived. Yeah. But it's really changed the game even as far as like how these performances go too. Like some people are doing the shit like, pre-tapes. That's not live. When you pre-tape, that's not live. Like when you're singing vocals, like, so you've really seen like a lot of artists like merge from like the backfields and like really take the forefront of things like during quarantine. But I'm like, is this a cheat code? But then now the cheat codes are like lasting. You like have the option to like pre-tape or do it live.
They got used to it. I don't like pre-tapes. I
hate pre-tapes.
I'm like, I want to hear you sing live. Same. That's why I'm here. Like I love the raw.
Oh, yeah, man. Same.
Yeah, well, hopefully people will get back to going live because one of my least favorite things is to pull up an acoustic YouTube video and it's clearly they're just singing over something. I'm like, wait a second. That's not why I'm here.
No, yeah, definitely. Agree with that. I can't wait to see it go back to like normal. Although with the pre-tape, you can actually do some really sick stuff with like, it's not necessarily VFX, but it is like editing. It's like a music video, a glorified music video performance. That's legit what it is, which is cool. But yeah, I miss the rawness of, the performances. And yeah, I'd love to hear you maybe miss a note or two to let me know you're not perfect. Like,
let me hear that you're human, unless you're like, I don't know. There's some people out there who are freaky good, even live. But I'm really happy you took the time to come on today. I've seen your work. I've seen you at work. You are, in my opinion, one of the best. And I know this because of how your peers treat you. And I don't know. I'm excited to learn from you.
I appreciate that, Adam.
Of course.
Means a lot.
Hell yeah. But I wanted to, of course, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this. This is their first time hearing from you. I was hoping we could kind of go back to where you started and then make our way towards the current time.
Sure.
We could just start when you started dancing or what your life was like when you started pursuing that, even if you didn't know it was your career.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been dancing since I was 3 years old, at your typical studio vibes. I danced all the way at the same exact studio, same teachers and everything from 3 to 18 when I, graduated, high school. And a lot of times in between that, during summers, you have dance competitions. You always have a weekend in the fall where you go to a dance competition, preliminaries. And then if you win, your studio does good, you get to go to nationals, which is in Vegas or
cool.
New York and Florida. And so I was very fortunate. We threw hella fundraisers and stuff to get to those points where we could travel and be able to afford all that. Cause so yeah, I did that. And then actually won a scholarship from one of my dance competitions that I went to become an apprentice for some of these choreographers that already lived in LA, which was wild, because I come from a really small town, a really small town.
Where are you from?
I'm from this town in West Virginia, actually, called Martinsburg. Yeah, and it's 40 minutes outside of DC, 20 minutes to Maryland, 20 minutes to Virginia.
Okay.
So I, people, if you're from West Virginia, this. People are always why don't you say that more that you're from West Virginia? I'm well, guys, it's not that I don't say that I'm from West Virginia. It's just that if you ask anybody else who's actually from West Virginia, they're oh, Martinsburg is not connected because this is what our state looks like. And we're all the way over here.
You're just a little tail. You're the thumb.
We're the Eastern Panhandle.
Okay, gotcha.
So then I won that apprenticeship, which on weekends I was traveling to go and assist these choreographers and stuff, which was really awesome and a whole new world for me. I was fortunate enough to get even just a lot of advice from these choreographers on how to move if I wanted to do dance as a career. That wasn't even an option, to be honest. Even just as far as our parents' generation, they didn't even see the arts as you're going to be a struggling artist for the rest of your life. There's no way to make this happen type thing, So that's not even in their vocabulary to try to push you for that. But my mom was so adamant. She was so like asking everybody like, well, do you think she's good? Because I know I'm her mom, but like,
I'm biased.
or
Yeah.
is she, does she actually have something here? So then, yeah, so I did that. And then fast forward after graduation from high school, went to Philadelphia for college. So I went to
Okay.
University of the Arts. So I got like a little scholarship to go to school there. And as soon as I got there, also understanding money at that time, because college, you're always just like, what am I going to eat today? Ramen noodles,
Yeah, yeah.
SpaghettiOs. So I immediately went to the guidance counselor when I found out how much school was costing. And I was like, I need to get this done in 2 years. I can't be here for 4.
Cut it in half.
I got my bachelor's degree actually. And
You did it in 2 years?
sorry, associate's degree, bachelor's. Listen to me.
It's okay. I'm not college educated, so I'd trust
Great.
you if you said it.
Yeah, so I did 2 years. I got my associate's degree in dance education.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, I was like, I got to get out. My parents made me go to college. I was like, I don't want to go. I want to go out to LA. I want to dance. I didn't realize this was a career. Now that it is, I'm out. And then, yeah, moved to LA. And from there, it was like all history, you know, getting an agent, auditioning for every job, also trying to let those jobs go after you audition for them, because you don't know if you're going to get the call back amongst like 1,000 dancers at this cattle call.
Yeah.
So it's one of them things. Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like, you know, your parents said they were biased, but it sounds like based on your scholarships and your grants that you were getting, you were as good as your parents thought you were. And, you know, you made your way to LA by 21, it sounds like. Pretty young.
20 years
20.
old. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I turned 21 soon after I moved here, like 4 or 5 months after I moved here, I turned 21. Yeah. But yeah, they definitely like, my mom was super like adamant about it. And then when I had expressed that I really loved like dance and I wanted to try to make a career out of it, she was very much like my backbone as far as like trying to make that happen for me. Like I remember my dad being like, this isn't a career. Like obviously he always supported me, but like he was like, this is not a career. What are you doing? And encouraging your daughter to go dance and do these things was like not an option. So I remember my mom actually one summer, my studio recital had ended in like June, and my mom did not tell me, did not tell my dad or nothing. She had my bags packed. And right after the recital, drove me to Pittsburgh. She saved up money, literally, like after every check that she would get paid. I think she saved up like $1,600 or something like that to send me away to a summer dance camp at Point Park University. And again, Pennsylvania, but Pittsburgh. And I went there for a summer and she was like, look, you have to go here. And if you want, it's like a college kind of like entry thing, but I was only like a junior, I believe, when I went, or a sophomore in high school. So she was like, if you want to do this, I need to see that you're serious about it. Like, can you get yourself up? Can you go to these classes? Like, and I loved it. I was like, I'm obsessed. I never, you know, every time I got to do new things like that, it just sparked my interest even more.
That's a great mother. And it must make it feel like you're like, wow, I have to prove this to her. She just spent this money on this. Like,
absolutely. And everything, honestly, like, yeah. And then my dad, obviously, like, he's one of those things that just, you got to make him a believer. But once he sees that it's possible, it's like, you can't tell him shit. Now he's like, you know, the most supportive dad ever. He walks around. He's like, yeah, my daughter dances for blah, blah, blah. My dad. I'm like, Dad, can we just have a normal dinner?
He's side stage every show, right?
Exactly.
Just like, that's my daughter. Telling everybody, it's like, you know, that's my daughter. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love a proud parent.
Yeah.
Proud parent side stage is like one of the best moments you can see ever.
Agreed. Yeah.
So after you made it to LA, you know, you started doing auditions. I'm assuming you had some success and probably a lot of no's, as everybody has that experience. But how did you turn that into, you know, working in the music industry? Like now I know you work for Major Lazer, and I know you choreograph for a lot of artists that I probably don't even realize you work for. How did you turn it into that? Like, what was that process like?
Well, you know, so like, I mean, like I said, when you like audition here, it's like you're amongst a ton of dancers, like with just the number on your chest, you don't mean anything to anybody. Like it's one of those things. So like, I kind of just came up with this motto that was just like, once I leave the audition, I'm not going to worry about it. If it comes back, it comes back, but let's just keep it pushing. Because if not, I felt like I was going to go into this hole of depression. Like if I wasn't getting every job that I really wanted, you know? There was also like some rude awakenings when I came out here, and my like main dream was to like dance for Rihanna. And then they told me I was too short. I was like, what do you mean I'm too short?
Oh, wow.
To dance for Rihanna. Like I didn't realize that these were all these stipulations. Like,
You're like, I can't learn that.
yeah, I can't teach myself to grow taller or anything like that. So like, you deal with like some trials and stuff like that. But then like, moving forward, you book things that just keep you thriving. I think after I moved to LA, I booked my first tour in like 6 months, which was kind of unheard of.
Respect.
I remember a lot of people telling me like, get comfortable out here because it's going to probably be a year or so before you start even booking a job. And I was really, really fortunate. So yeah, so I did all that, and then fast forwarding through just like my dance career and touring different stages and around the world many times, getting into like even just, I don't know. I even always say this too. I believe like even in the Cuba documentary that we did for Major Lazer, I had mentioned this. Like I traveled the world so many times with so many different artists, and that's why I'm so grateful for like even Major Lazer, because there's really not an artist like them,
Mm-hmm. Very unique.
Yeah. And like, even though like, Wes and Walshy and at the time Jillionaire or like Ape was the main attractions, technically, like they never made it feel like that. Like they're the artists, right? But they never made it feel like that. And I think sometimes like, when you dance in this industry with like certain artists, I don't know what it is, but there's just like such a disconnect. And I don't know, it's probably trust issues. Like nobody knows if you're actually like a friend, or they can try, you're not just trying to get their money or whatever the situation is. But traveled the world many, many times, and I've never experienced the world the way I have with Major Lazer. That was like really eye-opening. That was just off some like real genuine relationships, like family wise, because, Wes would be like, going to hot yoga this morning, 6 a.m. Who's coming? I'm like, well, I can't really roll out of the bed. But then you're like, nobody's ever asked me to do this before either.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Get your ass up. Let's go,
Yeah, I think that he and them are very good at working with people and not making you feel like you work for them, which is an empowering thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I don't know if I necessarily answered your question, so feel free to dial in if
No, it's all good. I mean, I think you did. From what I gathered, you basically grinded it out and networked and kept climbing, or rather working for new people, and eventually found your way towards Major Lazer through that. There's no like moment where you're like, all right, I have it. It's just, it was a continuous push.
It was definitely a continuous journey. And don't get it twisted too. There's definitely times, I think that dancers a lot of times get this mixed up as well. Like this is definitely like a very fantasized world, right?
Yeah.
Like even when you're on tour, you're living in hotels for what, like a year round? You're not doing laundry like that. Like you're not making your bed. You don't really like have to worry about any bills. This is probably the most consistent money that you're going to receive, like over longevity time, where you're not having to like hustle or go to these auditions or whatever. But then you go out on these tours and you're like, whoa, I'm living life, right? And I was like 21 at the time doing this. And I remember making a lot of money and not having a clue what to do with it. I remember asking my parents, like, okay, so I saved up a lot of money, like I should buy a house, right? And they were like, no, you're so young, like you don't know like if you're going to be in California like for the rest of your life, like that's a lot of money, it's a lot of responsibilities. And of course it was probably smart that I didn't, but also sometimes I wonder like how it would have elevated me even more.
It's hard not to look back and think, what if I did it differently?
And think that.
Yeah. It's hard.
Right. So then instead I've made all this money and then started, doing stupid things like buying a bunch of Louis Vuittons. And I was like, Mom, you want a Louis Vuitton? We never had those things before. You want one? Dad, you need a 60-inch TV for your garage, for your man cave? Sure. Let me get that for you. You want to need a new refrigerator? You need a dog?
Hey, giving gifts is a good feeling. It's a hard feeling it's such a good feeling.
It's a great feeling. I love to do that even to this day, to be honest with you. But just on the knowledge level for dancers, I would say like you go on these tours and like you live life, you're going to these bars, you're like, ooh, I got my next check coming in next week. Let me buy a round of drinks for everyone, right? And then you just slowly start to like spend your money and not realize when you get off tour that you're going to have like 5,000 in the bank when you should have like 50 or 60 or 70, depending obviously on the job and how much you're getting paid a week. But the craziest part is after you book a tour, you work so hard for it, you feel like you've auditioned for forever in LA for it. You book it, you go out, you're gone for a year and you come back, you're like, whoa, I'm on a high, I'm going to book more jobs. Everybody's going to be asking me for things. And then you realize out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Everybody thinks you're working.
Nobody's calling me for anything because they think I'm gone or they don't know if I'm like solely working for this artist. So like that was a really tough thing for me, is like then coming back after being on a tour, feeling like you're on top of the world and then having to go back into these cattle calls that's like 500 some dancers like after the same job. Like it feels like you're starting all over again.
I can totally relate to the thing where nobody calls you, because I've talked to other photographers that are at the top of their game, and they come home and they're like, nobody wants to hire me because they don't know they can hire me. What did that do to your ego the first time you had to confront that? Like, hey, you know, I'm more accomplished than I could have ever dreamed, but nobody's hitting me up to work with them. Like, what's that feel like?
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest with you, like it was definitely a humbling experience because even when I came back, like I then would have to, I found myself like after I realized what was like happening and stuff, I would find myself having to like almost push that grind again, but then not being afraid of being vulnerable to reach out to some of these like choreographers that I felt I had a decent relationship with at the time, to not step on anybody's toes, but to let them know like, hey, I really want to work. I wasn't afraid of like somebody feeling a way that I was just bold enough to say something, right? Because closed mouths don't get fed. So I was very much like, hey, I'm back. I want to work. Let me know if you have anything that I fit, you know, fit the job. If I look right or whatever, if my dancing ability or, you know, or even just like, let me know what I can work on if there's a reason why you're not calling me for certain things, you know?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
There was always those things, but it was definitely a humbling experience. I think a lot of like people underestimate like the amount of times that you have to go through that same thing. But, you know, I've always been super grounded just because of my upbringing and stuff. Like I've never shied away from like a challenge or even just remaining humble. And yeah, just is part of my DNA, I feel like.
Hey, it's proof of concept with where you're at right now. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
So you are a dancer yourself. Like everything we've talked about has kind of been from the mindset that you're dancing in these situations, but you're also a choreographer. Right. When did that start? Was it like, hey, you get home and you didn't have work and you started working for people as their choreographer? How'd you build that into your career?
It's kind of crazy because like I said, coming from a small town, you don't even think these things are possible, right? So your biggest dream is like, oh, I want to dance for Rihanna, right? But then you get out here and you dance for tons of different artists. You go on tour and then you're like, I didn't realize that I was ever actually going to make it this far.
Yeah. Now what? This is the top.
Right. Right. Like, are you just going to tour for the rest of your life? Like, are you going to be like 35, like just touring with these like teens or early 20-year-olds? Like your body's not going to last forever type thing, you know? And then slowly, I feel like I was always kind of the person in the room that like, you know, thank God I had like great choreographers, like, and teachers and mentors and people that like just kind of like educated me, like, yo, keep your mouth closed while you're in rehearsals. Nobody really wants to hear your ideas, your thoughts and opinions because you're a dancer on the job, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like I was always not even just trying to step on anybody's toes, but I'm a helping person regardless. So I feel like my knack of like those things is like people pleasing and making people happy. So even if it's the artist or whatever, if I see something from the outside, I wasn't afraid of actually like saying that, which sometimes got me in trouble with, you know, choreographers that would be like, you want to choreograph on the job? Then go do that. I'm the choreographer on the job. So then slowly I felt like I always just kind of had that thing in the room that I just always wanted to help. It wasn't even necessarily choreography, right?
You had a vision.
Yeah, right. I went on to a tour with Miley Cyrus and actually met my partner, Calvin. And he has always been a choreographer, like in and out of this like industry, right? For like years. And people didn't even realize like that he was choreographing because it was always under like a head choreographer. And then he was like an assistant choreographer. But, you know, like head choreographers a lot of times are more of like almost like creative direction. They're not doing so much as like your dance steps and stuff. So I'm going to get to where I'm going with this.
I'm in no rush and I'm all ears. I love this.
Okay, great. So I met Calvin, which he was already in this choreography world, right? Which kind of opened up my eyes to choreography because like I said, I didn't even realize like, okay, like what is next? What are the options? Can I get a list of like where I can go from here and then kind of dibble dabble and feel it out. So then after that tour with Miley in 2000, I think 14, and then 15 joined Major Lazer. And then Calvin was kind of doing choreography as well, like after the Miley tour, because he was just a dancer on the Miley tour. When we got off, he started back on to like his choreography stuff. I was really intrigued by it, but there was a lot of like couples doing like choreography together, which really felt corny. to Calvin and I. So we were like, oh, we don't want to be like these stereotypical like couples just because we date. We're going to create this whole like career together. And then so I started dancing for Major Lazer, right? And Wes just being a DJ and also like having hella people in and out of like the studios with him, even just hanging out. Because once you go to the studio with Diplo or you work for him or whatever, he's your friend, right? For life, I feel like he's your family. So like he's always inviting you out. And then I felt like I met a lot of people through that, like different artists and stuff, which I met Camila Cabello at the time, right? Because he was recording No Better and stuff. So I had met her. And then she was still a part of Fifth Harmony at the time, I believe. And then you fast forward a couple years later, Calvin actually gets the call from a former dancer. His name is Nolan Padilla, who actually called Calvin to do choreography for Camila Cabello's first solo performance at the Billboards.
Oh, wow. No pressure.
Yeah, right? So, and the song was like great. And it felt like kind of like this tribal feel, which everybody always calls Calvin because he's from the islands, whatever. So fast forward, Calvin is like, this is really, I think his own artist.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? So, which was also special because it was hers as well. So when they called, then he got a call like where Camila wanted to kind of talk to him, feel his vibes out type thing. And then she suggested that, they go to the studio together to just like have some one-on-one vibes, listen to music. And Calvin, of course, being a male, was like, I need to bring a female. I don't want to be in here like showing you how to move like a woman. You know what I mean? Like we have women for that.
Yeah.
So, we're in the house and he's like, would you want to come and assist me on this job?
Come on, let's go.
Exactly. And I was thinking, oh, Camila's not going to remember me, but it's kind of cool. Like if we go to the studio, whatever. So he was like, I'm going to bring my female assistant to the, one-on-one with us. And so that you have like an example of a woman, how to move your body like that. So she didn't know me, like who Calvin was, that we were dating, anything. And so we went to the studio with her. And when she walks in, she's like, Sarah, one of the Major Lazer gals. And I was just like, oh, wow, it's family, right? Which automatically just broke down all the walls of like.
Yeah, so much easier then.
Right. And then, so I was like, because I really didn't think that she was going to remember me, which then set off just like our relationship as like a whole, Calvin and I and Camila, just as like friends and family, like almost right away, instantaneously. It felt like that. And I think that was my start of assisting Calvin and understanding like, oh, wow, this is interesting. This is something that I love doing, and then kind of fell into that, and it just kept going. And then now, we choreograph for Major Lazer together, and we've done Addison Rae together. We've done Camila Cabello, and it's just, it's been an ongoing journey. And that's some different things as well, like learning, to work with your partner, but even just like sharing creativity with someone and always having to bounce ideas back off of each other. Definitely two minds is better than one, but sometimes you don't have the same creative ideas, or sometimes, and working like around those types of things. But that is how I initially fell into like doing, a choreography. And I wouldn't even say technically that I'm like, I guess I am a choreographer. I guess I just see it more as like an assistant choreographer, kind of see like this outside space. And I kind of always have been more interested in like the creative direction side, more so than creating steps on stage. If
You're
that
the
makes
idea
sense.
person, kind of like, hey, what if we did this kind of feel, and then somebody else comes in and does the math.
Exactly. And so like, that's why me and Calvin work so well together, because we're storytellers through movement. And that's why I think we're, one of a kind, honestly. And that's just being honest. I feel like, we're storytellers when we tell movement, and we create a whole storyline and a whole creative in our head of how we're going to make, because dance is our language, right? Dance is how we speak. Like we're not on the microphone talking, we can't say things. So how are you going to feel what I feel when I'm on stage, right? And you have to portray that. So I think that that's why we're really like a special duo, especially when it comes to choreography. But that's how that all landed.
I love hearing people's story, and I know that like a third in, you're like, I'm going to get there, just wait. And I love how it's never like a simple story, right? It's because the music industry is just networking and meeting people. And we talk about that a lot on here. It's just all about who knows you and who you know. And it just happens so organically and slow.
Yeah.
And you can't make it up. You can't fit, and like you said, you didn't know what was next, right? You're just like, I don't know.
And the plugs just started naturally happening. Like it wasn't, like people saw things that I didn't even see in myself that gave me an opportunity for things. And I was just like, oh, wow, I am capable of this. Sometimes you don't even realize that you are, right? And especially even coming from like a small town, again, you just like, you don't even realize the possibilities. And they always say dream big, but that was a big dream, right?
Yeah.
To come out here and like dance.
Your ceiling raised so much after you got there. You're like, oh, have you danced for Rihanna or no?
No, I haven't.
They
That's
won't
crazy,
let you.
right?
You haven't gotten taller yet. That's why.
I haven't gotten taller, but now, stipulations have changed as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like that all kind of started happening when I started venturing into the choreography side of things, which in turn really comes back to what we were talking about earlier, where people don't call you like to dance anymore, right? Like I'm still very young, want to be on these jobs. I love to dance still, right? But people don't call me because they're like, oh, you're now a choreographer, or oh, you're assisting like Calvin, and this is you guys' team. And so you just kind of stay over here. And it's just kind of one of those things. So I try to tell people like, yo, I'm definitely still dancing. I'm not dancing like I used to when I first moved out here. Obviously, I'm not going to try to go on like a world tour or anything like that anymore. Because there's, future things here that you got to plan for. But I'm always like, yo, call me. Like, I know like Rihanna with like Fenty and stuff. I did do, it's crazy, one audition for Ree that I got the call for that I knew I was going to be too short for. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to try to go. It's going to be a waste of my time. But who knows, maybe by some miracle, right? And so it's crazy because Calvin was actually assisting. He choreographed for Rihanna for a long time under this head choreographer, Hi-Hat. And so he was teaching the audition for the hip hop portion. And then there was also like a contemporary portion, which never happens in the dance world, right? Hardly ever do you go to book a world tour and they need you to be, it's always a plus, obviously, but like I came from a studio, like I trained my whole life. Like I'm a ballet dancer, I'm a tap dancer, I'm a contemporary lyrical, I'm a point dancer. Like I do it all, right? And you never really get to utilize those skills. It's normally hip hop out here, which is wild because I never did hip hop growing up. I never did hip hop until really I moved to LA. And then I was like having to take class because I was like, what is this style? I did a little bit in college. I had a teacher, but she was more of like foundations of like hip hop, which is way different from like actually being like grounded and doing like your hip hop.
Yeah, there's a lot of categories within being a dancer. It's not just, hey, I dance.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like different dimensions that go into it. So then, so Ree at this specific audition was having like a contemporary ballet portion and also a hip hop portion. And you had to take both or do both. And I was like, well, this is going to be cakewalk for me because I finally get to show off my ballet skills. I didn't know if like Hi-Hat had ever seen me dance like that, like those types of things. And I was like, well, this is at least going to be a great audition, a good opportunity for me, whatever. So I made it down to the end of the audition. I didn't get cut. They put me on tape. And then obviously Calvin at the time, we were very new to like dating. So he didn't want to tell anybody that I was like his girl or nothing. So
try to be professional about it.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people actually didn't know that we were dating for the longest, just because we just always kept it really professional, especially on jobs and in the professional setting.
It's easier that way.
Yeah, exactly. It gets messy, but so I guess then they had like a viewing of the tapes of all the dancers or whatever for Ree's tour and all the finalists that made it down to the end. And I guess she came into Hi-Hat's office and Calvin was there. The other choreographer was there that did the ballet portion. And then like all the assistants and Ree was in there. They were just going through tapes and she was like, yo, who's this girl? Who's this girl right here? Like, she's so sick. Boom, boom, boom. Of course, it was me. It was me. And so she, I guess, then asked, like, how tall is she? And they were like, oh, she's like 5'3", 5'3.5". And she was like, oh, man, she's too short. And I was like, fuck. But when Calvin came home from the audition, obviously, he told me that because he knew, like, it would have meant the world to me. But that meant even more because I was like, whoa. At least she likes me.
I got it. It's still if the thing I don't get hired for is out of my control, then cool.
Exactly.
Frustrating, but all right. Good to know.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it'd be frustrating, right? If you're auditioning for like, let's say 10, 20 different things. And every time it was because you're too short and they never told you because you're like, God, I need to be a better dancer. But that's not what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God people told me that. You're just too short. Unfortunately, you're too short, you know?
How do you deal with that?
You know, honestly,
That would rock
I don't
me.
really know. Yeah, I don't really know how I dealt with it. For a long time, it did bug me, I think, when I first came out here. And then I started booking other things that meant a lot to me as well.
Hmm.
And then that just like kind of took over. And I was like, well, I'll get what's meant for me. Whatever's meant for me will be for me, you know? And there's nothing that anybody's going to be able to do from that, even if I am too short for the job. If it's meant for me,
Yeah.
I'll get it, you know?
The alternate route would be like to dwell on it. And like you said before, you know, you're not worried about the auditions. Once you go there, you're done. You're
Exactly.
moving on to the next thing. It sounds like it just, you know, you're not going to let that stop you.
Yeah, leave them in the back. Leave them in the back, because if
Leave
not,
them
you're
in the
just going to
back.
go crazy. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Now that we kind of, I mean, know what you do to an extent, I'm sure it's
Yes.
much more lengthy than that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about touring and what the daily routine is like and what that looks like being on the road. So, I mean, I guess we could start. I mean, all I know is Major Lazer with you. If we can use that
Right.
as an example, have you done more tours with them than anybody else?
Yeah, I've definitely been with them the longest, for
Okay,
sure.
cool.
I definitely toured with Nicki Minaj for like 2 years.
Okay.
I toured with Miley Cyrus for a year, toured with Neo. Yes, I've done a bunch of different ones, but for sure, Major Lazer is definitely, like I said, Major Lazer is also a very unique situation. You're
Mhm.
not dealing with, you know, an artist that's, you know, just, I don't even really, because it probably sounds bad, but it just is what it is. We're also not friends, right? When you go on tour, like, you also have to
Mhm.
realize, like, these are forced friendships at first. You may then become closer over time or whatever, but it's a really forced industry. You have to
Mhm.
go on these tour buses, live with these people that you don't know from a can of paint normally, act proper.
Cordial.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I never
there's
thought of
all
it that
these,
way because I'm from band world. It's a little different, you know, like it's like a bunch
it's
of people
def-
that know each other. Yeah. So I never thought of it
it's
that way.
definitely different in the band world for sure. But yeah, like, so Major Lazer is like its own realm. Like I said, I have toured the world there, back, then some, and I have never experienced the world the way I have with Major Lazer. A lot of times, like, when you go out on the road with like these artists, you don't see them unless it's stage time, and occasionally, you know, a nice club night, maybe after one of your shows where they're getting
Yeah.
paid for like an after party, and they're like, hey, dancers, come be my, you know, friends at this table and drink some drinks, you know? It's kind of like one of those things. But that is what makes Major Lazer so different, because it's very family oriented. We pretty much mob together. I
Yeah.
feel like everywhere he goes, everywhere they all go, we go. Like,
I've
it's just,
seen it. I mean, the one
yeah.
that comes to mind is when we played, what's that festival that is in London? That's like it's a certain culture.
Wireless, no?
Not wireless. It's like it's like a street fest or a block party. It's like a giant block party.
Oh, I remember what you're talking about, but yeah, I don't.
I forget the name of it.
Carnival.
Carnival. Yeah. Carnival
Yeah.
London. Obviously there's
Yeah.
one in Brazil too, but this one, I remember going there with you guys. And then afterwards,
I didn't remember that you were there for that, but yeah, that
I know I
is,
came in and out. I wasn't there all the time.
Yes.
But afterwards, you guys just went around to a bunch of bars and he would just like plug in and you would just dance. And we just keep doing that. And I was like, this is crazy. It's 4 a.m. What is happening?
what is happening, right? And that's what I'm saying. That is its own unique, very, very unique
Yeah.
situation. I always tell people in this industry, because to be quite honest with you, like, I did not know who Major Lazer was before I started working with him. And that
Yeah.
is just like, I feel like a lot of people are like that in this industry, right? Because you're in it. I feel like you try to be out of it a lot. Besides like listening to music and stuff like that, obviously, you know, artists and stuff, but you're not listening to everybody's music, or maybe something's new to you or whatever,
Mhm.
right? And I feel like Major Lazer like took that, like, when I always knew Diplo, obviously, but I didn't know Diplo was a part of Major Lazer. But that's also because of how they make the cartoon character Major Lazer.
Yeah. They weren't
You
exactly
don't
the
know
face.
who's actually a part of Major Lazer, right?
Yeah.
So then when I found out it was Diplo, I was like, oh shit, this is cool, right? But then like we went out, we ended up becoming this whole family. And for some reason, I have been on multiple tours, but like as soon as you get off stage, you're like, I ain't doing shit the rest of the night. Might go get some dinner with everyone and maybe hit a club.
Yeah.
Like if we have a table so we could sit at and we could just drink and have a good time. But if not, we're all pretty much like probably back in our hotel rooms, chilling,
You're working.
Skyping with our families, like letting everybody know how you are, that type of stuff. And then like Major Lazer, it was like, how are we at our third party tonight and I still have energy to get on the stage and dance? But it's just the vibes.
You're
Like,
just loving it so much.
and every day I feel like we did like 4 shows. If we had a show, I was like, all right, we at least got 2 more shows tonight for sure, or
They're
at
not
least
scheduled,
one.
but they're happening.
Yeah, like you just knew it. And if it honestly, if it didn't happen, it didn't feel right. It was like something was missing or something.
Wes, what's wrong? What happened today?
Right.
Are you okay?
Right.
Did you go home? No, that's
Exactly.
fair. Well, like, let's pretend you're on the road with Major Lazer, and I know there's so many corner cases. Like, we're on a festival, we're on a fly day, and you don't do very many bus tours. It's just chaotic with him. But for the majority of the time, when you wake up in the morning, like, I know what my life is like. I know what a guitar tech's life is like, or a tour manager. What are your responsibilities when you wake up in the morning on tour? Like, what do you have to worry about before showtime?
That's great. I feel like, when you wake up in the morning when you're on tour, I definitely think like it's a lot of like mental stuff as well. Cause I think you're going through like more things than you actually realize because you're on a job and you're trying to keep it going. Right. Mm-hmm. I think you also like deal with like missing friends, cause again, this is like forced friendships on tour. Eventually, you become lifelong friends, right? Because you've traveled the world for like a year, but you don't start off like that.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to kind of get into that whole thing. But I think like doing like the whole debriefing for yourself, like in the mornings when you wake up is like really helpful and like for sure needs to happen like every morning, right? And then I feel like just really maintaining your body, whether that's going to the gym, rolling out or stretching a lot, like in your dressing or in your hotel rooms, taking long Epsom salt baths. Like,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And then a lot of times, like you have to be at the arenas or even these festivals really early because they'll have like, massage therapists there that, they can do work on your body, or they'll have chiropractors there that can like realign you and like, because your body goes through a lot on tours. It's not only just like the dancing on stage because your body's kind of conditioned to that. But I think it's more so like the flying. It's horrible for your body, or these buses that this mattresses might not be the most comfortable. Mm-hmm. Or, you know what I'm saying? You fell asleep on the couch on the bus watching TV and you forgot to make it to your bunk. Like all these things go into play, right? Now I got a sore neck. Now I need to go early to the arena so that I can get this worked out so that I can be good for the stage, right? I also had a really rude awakening as well being on tour because I was not a water drinker. That's some serious
flavor.
Shit.
Put some flavor in that water. Oh, I'm not drinking it.
Like my idea of water for the longest time was Propel. Like horrible shit. Okay.
I've seen the commercials.
Yeah. I was legit coming off of the like stage after doing like full out shit numbers back to back and coming off the stage and almost like barfing every time. Like I was like, Look, I told wardrobe, like I need a trash can on my side of the stairs because I'm going to barf after this number for sure. I know it. So like, it was crazy because on the Miley tour, we actually had a couple of us dancers got together that like, we all felt like we needed to drink more water because this show was pretty intense. And so we started to we did Lent, but we did 40 days, 40 nights where we just had nothing but water. We couldn't have juice.
Well done.
We couldn't have anything else but water. Unless we went to a club, we could have like a drink.
Yeah.
But we weren't.
You got to blend in.
Exactly. Extracurricular activities, we could have like a drink or something, but we're not just in the club drinking soda. We're drinking, like.
It's not because you're thirsty. That's not why you're drinking it. Yeah.
Exactly. So then I started drinking water and it was like a bet, and I did 40 days. And ever since then I fell in love with water. It changed my whole life on tour, just like even actively, like just how my body was receiving like all the anxiousness before hitting the stage, like the adrenaline that you're dealing with, your stamina, like everything just like felt so much better. I remember coming off the stage and they had a trash can there and I was like, good, I feel great.
Water's the cure.
Yeah, water's the cure. So I would say that's what you start with in the mornings, like when you wake up, and then you head to the arena. You always have obviously catering.
Yeah.
I feel like normally you have catering. If it's like a festival or something, sometimes it's a little bit different. Sometimes they have catering. Sometimes you just get food brought to your rooms. And then, you just kind of chill and decompress before you're about to go on and hit the stage. Yeah. For Major Lazer, it was wild because, we just did the tour was it last year? Is that 2020?
Not last year.
2020. No, 2020 when we did the drive-in tour.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
We were actually doing 2 shows a day.
Oh, wow. You just fly in?
2 full blown shows a day. Like we were doing, your tour, we would drive or fly in, depending on like where it was. Most of that was a drive. Most of that was on the bus. So then we would get there, we would have a show, and then 30 minutes or an hour later, we would do a whole nother Major Lazer show.
At the same venue or somewhere else?
Same venue.
Oh, so it's like an early show and a late show kind of?
Exactly. Like a movie theater type thing.
Yeah. Hey, why not double up where you're at? You know, that's great.
That was intense.
It sounds like you as like whether, you know, if you're a singer, it's your voice. If you're a guitar tech, it's your guitars. It sounds like you just have to maintain you. You have to make sure your body, your mental, everything. I mean, does that kind of psych you out sometimes? Because I know for when I have to maintain something for work, I almost overdo it, or I like think of it so much that like half the time I'm just calming myself down for thinking about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what I'm saying about decompressing. Like you need to meditate, you need to pray, you need to do whatever you need to do. You definitely got to do that for yourself. Like it makes that much of a difference for you. Cause again, like you said, I legit will be like in my head all day trying to tell myself, I call them blockers. Like I legit be like, put your blockers up.
You have to tunnel vision. There's too much going on.
Exactly. Because you can get wrapped up into a lot of different things, especially being out on tour. And again, you're living in a fantasy world. Somebody's making your bed every day. Somebody's cleaning your shit up every day. Like it's a whole other
how hard is it to go back to normal life after going on tour? You're like, wait, I got to make 3 meals a day. They're not just ready.
What am I going to eat today?
Where's my food?
What, there's no show? There's no show? Like, what am I getting? What is my hype today? What is my height of the day? Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's definitely wild.
Well, now, like, leading up to the show, like, I know you probably have a pre-show warm-up or something you do, but once you get on stage, is it pretty straightforward, or is there a lot of improv involved? I mean, I feel like Major Lazer is always the special case for everything, because other tours, it's probably like, on a track, perfect. With Major Lazer, I feel like it's freestyling.
Absolutely. It is and it isn't. That's what's crazy. So like with Major Lazer being the special case of this, for sure, without a doubt. Like, I mean, we kind of have an idea of how this set is going to go, right? But then obviously we know like things can change, or like if the crowd isn't feeling it, Wes is clearly going to play another song, or things may change in and out. Songs may be interchangeable, like those types of things. So we're always on our toes with Major Lazer, which also makes it really fun because tour can also get very boring. Oh, I bet. Tour can be very, very boring. You're like, okay, well, what's the height of my night tonight? What is going to be my favorite number? What am I going to give my all to? Even though you give your all to the whole show, it can be very much like that. With Wes, it's like, oh, he might cut the whole song in half and you're in the middle of the dance. So you just got to stand on stage and be like, I don't look stupid. I know y'all didn't see that. Like, it's a lot of playing it off. And then you go off stage and you're like, Wes, what the fuck? What the fuck? And he's laughing at us.
He's like, I don't know, man. They just weren't feeling it. I do my thing, you know?
Yeah. And also, like, I think Wes taught me a lot. I mean, a lot of different things. But I think one of the key things that he taught me is to just not take life so seriously. Even on the road, like, do your job, do your things obviously right and to 110% every time. But it's not so serious. And that's what Major Lazer really taught me. Like, these dance steps are not that serious. Like,
nobody's going to notice.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. But I also, when I toured with Nikki, I remember she always had she was a kind of unique situation as well. Mm-hmm. Because she would have let's say 3 acts, right? Or let's say 4 acts. The third act in every show was always kind of like a freestyle. Depending on what city we were in, she would perform certain songs. And it would definitely be just a vibe type of a situation. And then there would be nights where she would walk backstage and say, we're skipping act 3 tonight. Yeah. Well, all my clothes that I change into for act 4 are where I end for act 3. So we're skipping act 3, which means my stuff needs to be where act 2 ends. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, I'm going out and doing the 4th act. Like, I'm not changing tonight. I'm going to just be in my 2nd act clothes and we're going to go and do the 4th act. Because it's like some of those things that happen last minute, or like you'll hear them on the walkie-talkie. You definitely have to be really alert.
You've got to be in the moment.
Yeah. Like you cannot be like spaced out at all. Like, you got to be alert. There's a lot going on. There's crew moving under the stage. Like, there's people getting hairs changed. There's people getting outfits changed, shoe changes. And a lot of times you have like about a minute to make that happen. And that is wild to make that happen.
That's crazy. I never knew all that.
No, it's really crazy. Like if it's like an actual, like for Miley Cyrus's tour, we had an outfit, wig, and shoe change for every single number. We didn't
Oh,
go out with the
every
same
song?
hair. Yeah. Yep.
How did they give you enough time? Did she just have interludes, or like was it literally like seconds
It
switch?
was literally like a few seconds, or she would perform maybe like a ballad and you would have
Okay.
a minute and a half, 2 minutes to change hair, wardrobe, shoes, and be in your spot to go up to the next song. Like it's a lot. Like it was a lot. It was definitely like the wig situation. I've never had that. Normally you do your hair for a show
Yeah.
and it stays, and whatever the hair is, you maybe change it like once. No, this was every number. So we were like ripping wigs off, ripping our clothes off, changing. Hair was getting done at the same time, touch up of our makeup, switch of whatever, and then boom, we back on the stage. Like
That's wild.
it's wild. I always call it like the underworld of the stage. Like what's happening under that stage. If people had a fucking clue what was happening under there, they would lose their shit. It'd probably be more entertaining, to be honest. It's not, but it would be really entertaining to do like a show like that.
I feel like when you get to jobs on your level or any professional level, sometimes the actual thing you're hired for becomes the easy part. And if it's not the easy part, you better get really good at it because everything else is so much harder.
Facts. Like the changing, like the quick changes, like the, you know what I mean? Even the mental game. Because the mental is like the strongest part of all of that. That's what I'm saying. Like you have to decompress and stuff.
Before a show, if you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this, what do you do? Like, what's your go-to solution? Do you have a routine?
I honestly, to be fair with you, don't know if I've ever really felt that feeling like,
good,
I don't want to do this tonight. I don't think I've ever really felt that. I definitely felt like,
because you've prepped.
Yeah. Or tonight doesn't feel like it's going to be an on night for me. Mm-hmm. But again, that's like all a mental game for me. So I feel like, you know, just talking to yourself, or even like for me, I would like try to like drown out the noise, put in like some headphones and like listen to some like really good music. And that always puts me in a really great mood. I think music changes everything for everyone. It can change your life.
Top artist you're listening to, what is it? What's your really good music you're listening to?
I'm definitely like an R&B soul girl. My entire life is surrounded by like beautiful women like SZA and Her, and
that's a vibe. Those are all both a vibe.
Just those women, just man, it's life. I love that.
Good to know. Next time, well, I won't be dancing, but next time that I'm stressed out about something, I'm turning on one of those artists.
Oh, turn on like SZA, bro. She will change your whole life.
I've seen her live once. We played like a festival with her with a band I was with, and we went and watched SZA, and I was like, this is good. This is very good. I'm dying.
I actually have never really seen her live. I've watched like some of her tours or her shows on YouTube and stuff like that. But that's another thing too, with being in this industry. Like it's hard to, that's what's so good about festivals, which I never really did festivals until I started doing Major Lazer.
Yeah.
Normally it's like your own tour because you're with the artist, whatever, right? You're in arenas, you get on the bus, you go home, you go to the next arena, you do this, you do that.
Epsom salt, you got it.
Very routine, like plug in every day type of thing. Mm-hmm. With Major Lazer, like I said, again, so that's where you could see, like, you get the options to see different artists, which is awesome. Like I got to see Eminem. I was like, what? When did I ever think that I was going to see him?
That's like my favorite artist.
Right.
That's
and
amazing.
I was like, well, I can't believe I'm getting to see this. And then you're like, for free, because I danced here.
Yeah, you're getting paid to see him, kind of.
Yeah. But I was going to say, like, even just in general, being in this industry, a lot of times everything's so on the go, you never have time to actually plan things. So like when people do have concerts and stuff, I would love to go see them perform. But you're like, I can't plan a month ahead, can't plan 2 months ahead, because I might get a call and then I'm asked out $1,000 that I spent on tickets or however much, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it's just kind of like, you got to catch them when you can type of thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I can totally understand. I wanted to tell you a quick Eminem story that you'll appreciate. Please. My disappointment. I saw him in 2010 at Epicenter Festival, which is like outside of LA. Super hot day. And again, it was a festival. I was with another band and he was headlining. And I watched him and it was all track, like so much track. And then his backing singer, like they would play like whatever guest vocal and then have a girl singing to that track. And I was like, this is so bad. And it was so disappointing.
Damn, because you know when we saw him,
was it no track?
It was no track.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
When I even I can't think of his name right now. It literally just slipped my mind, and I just was thinking like, fuck, can't think of his name, but he's one of his drummers. That's like a homie of mine that I've met just like through different tours and stuff. And he was drumming for him, and he was literally like, we've been rehearsing for this show. I think it was.
Is it Devin? No, I just Googled Eminem's drummer.
No, it is Devin.
Devin Webster.
So he was like telling me that like they legit had like rehearsals for like 24 hours, like some days, because this guy was just like, no, like if he would mess up any lyric or any little thing, he was like, no, we got to make sure this is perfect. Like, and he would go back, and he was back on his like bullshit where he wanted to like, you know, really have his shit down pat.
I respect that.
Yeah, so and I'm sure artists go through levels of that shit too, where it's like, yeah, just play the fucking track. Like, I'm not trying to sing this shit tonight. I'm not feeling this.
I caught him on an off day or a part of his life where he just couldn't do it, and I don't blame him, but I was like,
facts.
Damn,
but you're
I
like,
want to hear your voice.
This is my one time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
and
so
also,
good.
again, like, who gets to just see Eminem?
Right?
Like,
you take it for granted sometimes because you're like, oh, yeah, tonight we're watching this artist that people don't see their whole life. But we get to see casually.
We get to see him, and a lot of times for free, or we're getting paid to sit in the crowd.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I remember seeing him, and I was like, I can't even believe seeing him go through like those different personalities through all, like you hear it on the tracks when you listen to his shit, but to see that shit live, I was like, I'm blown.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a legend.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm like reminiscing about Eminem in my head. For the most part, I think the one thing I want to know is somebody being as determined to improve. I know you practice all the time. I've seen you before the set, like I'm assuming it was practicing, but you're kind of going over dances with the other girls and Wes or, you know, whoever's in the backstage area, like going over moves. I know you practice, but after show, you get off stage. I'm sure there's things that maybe Wes taught you to not take it seriously, but I'm sure there's things like, hey, we messed this up or this needs to get better. What do you do after a show's over to kind of improve it for next time, or what's that process look like of self-criticizing?
Yeah, accountability too.
Yeah.
I think it's holding yourself to a different standard. Sometimes I do realize that like not all dancers care that much. And so like that's a battle in and of itself, because then it's like, well, why do I care so much? Like you'll battle that, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm just such a perfectionist. I'm also a Virgo, so I'm very tedious about, you know, meticulous. I'm just like that. And so I feel like, you know, I kind of am a little bit a harder critique on myself, which is a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. But I definitely feel like I honestly don't know if I've ever really messed up on stage, to be honest. That's how serious I'll take the job.
Yeah.
From jump, you know, but if something does happen, oh man, it gets me hot. It gets me angry. I definitely have to like decompress and be like, oh, like that was horrible. Fuck. Or like, you know, sometimes you only have like one night and you're like, this is the biggest city. Or this is LA. We never come to LA. And then we get to do this show in LA and then you fuck up or something doesn't go right in the set. And you're like, oh, it was a horrible show. I'm so embarrassed if anybody saw that.
But you know, in reality, nobody ever notices, right? Unless it's like a wardrobe malfunction that's of significance. Other than that,
right.
Probably people wouldn't know.
I've had some things like that happen too. Wardrobe malfunctions where you got to dance the whole number and hold your top up with one hand, just do the whole number. It's man, wild things that happen. Yeah.
Respect. That would be so hard to handle on every level.
Yeah. Well, you need both hands. Well, I guess we all need both hands, but.
Why is she dancing? Why does she look like she's hugging herself? What's going on? It's not the dance.
Things are weird. She's off tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
But whenever, I always feel like when musicians or anybody comes off stage, you're like, oh, I missed that one drum part or anything. You're like, I never noticed that.
Yeah. Or I'll even like go back. It's almost like film. Like there is some tours that you'll go on and every night they film the tour. And when you get on the bus to drive to the next city, all the dancers are like mandatory to sit in the front lounge at the bus and we have to watch the show and we go through notes.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, you take notes on what you could do better, whether it was like staging was off, spacing, whatever the case may be.
So it's like a growing thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's times that even in the middle of a tour, an artist will drop a new song and you need to go into rehearsals because she's going to add this now to the set. And this is a part of the show now and she wants something creative to it. So there's things like that as well.
Well, respect to you. It sounds like in every level You have one of the most demanding jobs on the tour.
But it's crazy. Why aren't we paid like that?
No, you got to keep singing or something. You know, you got to
Right.
become the artist that everybody's coming there to see.
Exactly.
Honestly, thank you so much for your time today. This was amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Yes. I have one last question for you. You're not going to be able to guess what it is, but we ask everybody this question.
Okay.
Shower shoes or no shower shoes on tour?
Shower shoes. Never trust.
Wear them. Okay. I wasn't, it's so polarizing. People are like, hell no or hell yes. You're hell yes.
I'm a hell yes. You must have shower shoes. There is no fucking way. Some of those showers that you be showering, bro, and especially on festivals, I'm like, these porta potty showers that we're showering in, oh my God.
And you probably can't skip showers because you're getting sweaty. Like you are working out every day.
Oh, if you skip a shower, you're nasty. But I've had to do it sometimes because that shower is not happening. I'm like, I'm going to feel dirtier after I take a shower than if I was to just go in the bathroom, wipe down with some fucking baby wipes or something, and then call it a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a bird bath.
That's what's called a bird bath?
That's what I call it, a bird bath.
I like that. I didn't have an official name. I said a baby wipe, shower, but I think bird bath makes sense.
Some people call it a hoe bath. That's because, strippers be in the bathrooms, like foot up on the sink.
I didn't know, but now I know, and now everybody who listens also knows. See, these
are
things.
A hoe bath or a bird bath.
Yeah, you can pick your term. See, these are the things that I'm happy you say because there's no question I could have known to ask to get you to share this information.
Right.
I just want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Sara. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully see you on the road at some point. Did you have any lessons you learned this week? Anything? I appreciate how often you post a progress report in the Discord, and I really want to know, what are the things you learned this week now that you're newly in LA?
I would say the things I probably learned the most that last week, it for sure is knowing the social aspect of LA is the biggest part of it, even more so than like maybe the work. Like it's all about who you know, and knowing how to navigate that is like the biggest thing I've been trying to learn and been learning.
So before moving to LA, I mean, we talked because I'd like to take responsibility, at least to a little bit, of convincing you to come here now because you need to be here. But it's really hard to tell somebody like, hey, you need to be in LA to get work because of the social aspect of this. And has that kind of like shown through now that you've been there a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've met so many people in the 2 months I've been here, let alone just this last week, met some other people. So you can't really do that from where I've lived before, like you do in LA. It's just so easy just to go and get coffee or, grab some lunch. You can't be like, oh, I can be out there tomorrow or next week. It's just not the same vibe.
Yeah. And I think that's why people are like in Austin or Nashville or Chicago or New York or London or wherever it might be. That's like a little hub, or, other countries, it might be something like, I don't know, like the hubs I would assume it's like Shanghai in China or something. But, it's like the place you need to be where you can just go meet up with people. And I remember actually I had a photographer friend who was moving out that was not you, who was like, why do I need to be in LA? Like, how do I get work? And I was like, you just hang out with people. It's just that FaceTime. You just got to meet people. And it's cool to hear that it's working for you. So if there's people listening to the podcast who are maybe trying to get into this industry, what would you say, like, in order to successfully move or exist in a city like this, even though it might seem scary, what should they do to set themselves up for it?
Just introduce yourself to people is probably the biggest thing, because they're the people who are going to get you the gigs at the end of the day. And just be a cool person. Don't try to put on a show or like be anything other than yourself. I think that's probably the biggest thing you can do when you come out here, and, have maybe one friend. It helps. I mean, I'm living with my best friend now, so that I feel like I kind of got away with, that's a cool, at least I have one person I know.
Yeah.
But not everyone's lucky enough to have that. I understand that. But
so if they don't know anybody, they can just move in with you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I have a nice futon ready for them right now.
Yeah, actually. I've slept on it. I came and visited you like the day you got up there, I think.
Yeah, actually though. Hey, it has a new frame to it now, so it's extra comfy. It's
Oh,
off the
perfect.
ground.
I'm all about it. You got a couch in your living room yet?
Well, that's the process. We're getting one this week, hopefully.
That's at 4 months. That's at 4 months or 2 months. That's the 4 month one part.
Oh yeah, we get one piece of furniture per month, so we just slowly build out, and then by the time
perfect.
we leave, yeah, exactly,
Have a full place. Well, I'm excited to come back up to LA. I've been in San Diego for a year. I'm excited to be back up there in the next month or so because we left for COVID reasons. But I'm ready to get back to work, so we'll hang out more.
Absolutely excited, dude, and good luck on the move too.
Thanks, man.